We sold your childhood home. The money is for your brother's wedding. My mother said it so casually, like she was announcing what she'd made for dessert. She didn't even look up from her plate, just kept cutting her chicken into perfect little squares while my entire world tilted sideways. Across the table, my brother Derek grinned at his fiancée Tiffany, who was already scrolling through wedding venue photos on her phone. What none of them knew was that they had just confessed to a crime. And I had the evidence to prove it in my back pocket. Let me tell you how my family tried to steal my inheritance, and ended up destroying themselves instead. My name is Josephine Mercer, Josie to everyone who actually knows me, and I grew up in a small craftsman house on Maple Street in Eugene, Oregon. That house wasn't fancy. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that was always too small for holiday dinners. But it was where I took my first steps, where I learned to read, where my grandmother taught me to bake her famous apple pie. My grandmother, Edith Mercer, lived with us until I was 16. She had moved in after Grandpa died, taking over the small bedroom at the back of the house. While my parents worked long hours and my brother demanded constant attention, Grandma Edith was my sanctuary. She was the one who helped me with homework, who listened to my problems, who made me feel seen in a family that seemed to look right through me. Derek was the golden child from birth. He was louder, more demanding, more present. My parents orbited around him like planets around the sun. When he wanted baseball equipment, they bought top of the line. When he wanted a car at 16, he got one. When he failed out of his first year of college, they called it a gap year and funded his second attempt. Me. I got hand-me-downs and a pat on the head for being low maintenance. I learned early that being invisible was easier than competing for attention I would never win. Grandma Edith saw everything. She never said anything directly to my parents. That wasn't her way, but she made sure I knew the truth. Josie, she told me on my 18th birthday, your parents love you, but they don't see you. Some people only have room in their hearts for what's loud. But quiet things have value too. Quiet things endure. That night, she gave me a birthday card with a key inside. Not a symbolic key, a real one. The key to the house on Maple Street. This house was mine before your parents ever lived here, she explained. I let them move in when your grandfather died because they needed help. But the deed has always been in my name. And now it's in yours. I stared at her, uncomprehending. What do you mean? I mean, I transferred the property to you last month. Legally, officially, completely. This house belongs to you, Josie. Not your parents. Not your brother. You. Does Mom know? Grandma smiled that wise, weathered smile I loved so much. No. And I don't think you should tell her. Not yet. Let her keep thinking what she's always thought, that this house will go to whoever she decides deserves it. But when the time comes, when she tries to take what isn't hers to give, you'll have the truth on your side. How will I know when that time comes? Trust me, sweetheart. She squeezed my hand. You'll know. Grandma Edith passed away 2 years later, peacefully in her sleep, in the small bedroom at the back of the house she had secretly given me. I was the one holding her hand when she took her last breath. My mother cried at the funeral, performative tears for a woman she had barely tolerated. Derek didn't even fly home. My father stood stone-faced, already mentally calculating whether Grandma had left them anything. She hadn't. Not to them, anyway. For 6 years, I kept my secret. I moved to Portland after college, built a career as a graphic designer, and watched from a distance as my family continued treating me like an afterthought. Derek bounced between jobs, relationships, and get-rich-quick schemes, all funded by our parents. He was 31 years old and had never paid rent in his life. My parents still lived in the house on Maple Street. My house. They had no idea. I paid the property taxes every year, quietly, through an LLC I had set up. The tax bills were sent to my address, and I made sure the county records showed me as the owner. But my parents never thought to check. Why would they? They had lived there for 25 years. They assumed it was theirs. Assumptions are dangerous things. The call came 6 months ago. Derek was engaged to Tiffany, a woman he had known for exactly 4 months, and they were planning the wedding of the century. Destination ceremony in Hawaii. Designer dress. 500-person guest list. The whole extravaganza was estimated to cost over $200,000. We're so excited, my mother gushed over the phone. Tiffany's parents are contributing, of course, but we want to make sure Derek has everything he needs for this new chapter. That's nice, I said, already knowing where this was going. We're thinking about making some changes. Downsizing, you know. The house is too big for just your father and me. My blood went cold. Downsizing. We've been talking to a realtor. The market is hot right now. We could get almost $400,000 for the place. I gripped my phone so hard I thought it might crack. Mom, you can't sell that house. Don't be dramatic, Josie. It's just a building. Derek needs this money for his future. You understand. I understood perfectly. My mother was planning to sell my house, the house that had been legally mine for 6 years, and give the money to my brother for a wedding. I didn't tell her the truth. Not yet. Grandma's voice echoed in my mind. When the time comes, you'll know. The time hadn't come yet, but it was close. 3 weeks later, I drove down to Eugene for a family dinner. My mother had insisted. She wanted to celebrate Derek's engagement and share some exciting news. I knew exactly what that news would be. The house looked the same as it always had. White siding, green shutters, the maple tree in the front yard that I had planted with Grandma when I was 8. I sat in my car for a moment, looking at the home that was legally, irrevocably mine, and felt a strange sense of calm. Tonight was the night. Dinner was the usual production. My mother had made her famous pot roast, the one she only made for special occasions, meaning occasions that centered on Derek. Tiffany was there, flashing her engagement ring at every opportunity, talking about flower arrangements and honeymoon destinations. Derek barely acknowledged my presence. Hey, Josie. Glad you could make it. That was it. No hug. No questions about my life. Just dismissal dressed up as greeting. We made it through the main course before my mother dropped the bomb. So, she said, dabbing her lips with her napkin, we have some wonderful news. Your father and I have decided to sell the house. I set down my fork. Oh, we closed last week. We sold your childhood home. The money is for your brother's wedding. She said it so casually, like she was discussing the weather. We got $380,000. It's going to make Derek and Tiffany's special day absolutely perfect. Tiffany actually squealed. Babe, we can upgrade to the oceanfront venue now. Derek grinned. Thanks, Mom. Dad. This means everything. I looked around the table at my family. My mother's satisfied smile, my father's approving nod, my brother's entitled smirk, his fiancée's greedy excitement. None of them had thought to ask me how I felt. None of them had considered that I might have any claim to my own childhood home. That's interesting, I said calmly. How much did you say? $380,000. My mother beamed. The market is just wonderful right now. And who did you sell it to? A lovely young couple. The Hendersons. They're moving in next month. I pulled out my phone and opened my photo gallery. The deed was right there. I had scanned it years ago, just in case. I turned the screen toward my mother and watched her face. That's funny, I said. Because Grandma transferred this house to my name 6 years ago. It's been legally mine since I was 18. So who exactly did you sell it to? The silence that followed was exquisite. My mother's smile froze, then crumbled. My father's face went from confusion to horror in 3 seconds flat. Derek's grin melted away like ice cream in the sun. And Tiffany? Tiffany started screaming. What do you mean it's in your name? Derek, what is she talking about? Our wedding. Our wedding. That's impossible, my mother whispered. Mom would never. She lived here. We took care of her. Grandma owned this house outright before you ever moved in, I said, my voice steady. She let you live here as a favor. But the deed was always in her name. And on my 18th birthday, she transferred it to me. Legally. Officially. Completely. I slid my phone across the table. Check the county records if you don't believe me. I've been paying property taxes for 6 years. The mortgage was paid off decades ago. This house is mine. It has been mine. And you just committed fraud by selling a property you don't own. My father finally spoke. Josie, there has to be some mistake. We can work this out. We're family. Family? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound I barely recognized. You sold my house to fund Derek's wedding without even asking me if I wanted it. You didn't call to see if I had any attachment to my childhood home. You didn't offer me a single dollar of the proceeds. You just decided that Derek deserved it, and I didn't matter. I stood up from the table. Well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to contact your realtor tonight and tell them the sale is invalid because you sold a property you don't own. You're going to return the $380,000 to the Hendersons. And you're going to explain to your precious son that his dream wedding isn't happening, at least not on my dime. You can't do this. Tiffany was crying now, mascara streaming down her face. Derek, tell her she can't do this. Derek looked at me with pure hatred in his eyes. You've always been jealous of me. Always. This is your revenge, isn't it? No, Derek. This is the truth. The truth Grandma saw, even if no one else did. She knew you would always come first with Mom and Dad. She knew I would always be forgotten. So she made sure I had something that couldn't be taken away. I picked up my purse. Except you tried to take it anyway. And now you're going to face the consequences. The aftermath was brutal for them. The Hendersons, understandably furious at being sold a house by people who didn't own it, threatened to sue. My parents had to return the full $380,000 plus an additional $45,000 in legal fees and damages to make the lawsuit go away. They didn't have that money. The $380,000 had already been deposited into Derek's account for the wedding. Deposits had been paid. Venues had been booked. None of it was refundable. In the end, my parents had to take out a loan against their retirement savings to cover the settlement. Derek and Tiffany's extravagant Hawaiian wedding was canceled. They ended up getting married at the county courthouse 3 months later. Tiffany wore a dress from a department store clearance rack. 14 people attended. The marriage lasted 8 months. Apparently, Tiffany had been more interested in the wedding than the marriage. When the fantasy fell apart, so did they. Derek moved back in with our parents, into the house they no longer owned. I let them stay. I'm not heartless. But I did draw up a formal lease agreement. They pay me $1,200 a month in rent, below market rate, but enough to remind them every 30 days who actually owns the roof over their heads. My mother calls me occasionally, trying to rebuild the relationship. She's never actually apologized, just made vague statements about misunderstandings and family drama. I listen politely, say very little, and end the calls as quickly as possible. My father hasn't spoken to me since that dinner. I don't think he ever will. In his mind, I'm the villain who ruined his son's wedding and humiliated his family. He'll die believing that, and I've made peace with it. Derek sent me a text last month. 2 words, I'm sorry. I haven't responded yet. I'm not sure I ever will. The house on Maple Street still stands. The maple tree I planted with Grandma is over 20 feet tall now. Sometimes I drive by just to look at it. This place that holds so many memories, this gift my grandmother gave me to ensure I would never be erased from my own family's story. I'm planning to move back eventually. Renovate. Make it mine in a way that goes beyond paperwork. I'll put Grandma's rocking chair in the front room where she used to sit and teach me to knit. I'll bake her apple pie in that too small kitchen. I'll plant flowers in the garden she loved. And on the mantle, I'll put the card she gave me on my 18th birthday, the one with the key inside, framed where everyone can see it. My grandmother was right about everything. She saw what no one else saw. She protected what no one else thought to protect. And she gave me the one thing that couldn't be taken away. Not just a house. Proof that I mattered. Proof that I was seen. Proof that quiet things endure.